In 1519, Charles V became the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. For him to become the emperor, he had spent an enormous amount of money. This money was chiefly his own, but he also drew from other sources, one of which was the German banking family Welser from Augsburg and Nuremberg. The Welser lent large sums to him, for which he made Bartholomeus Welser the head of the family and nobleman of the empire. In spite of that, the emperor, for almost a decade, did not pay back any of the money. In 1527, in order to repay the debt, Charles V, who was also king of Spain, proclaimed that he would lend them a part of the New World. On March 27, 1528, Charles and the Welser came together and signed a contract. It was, amongst other things, agreed upon that the Spanish Empire was to give control of the newly discovered Venezuela province. Furthermore, they were exempt from certain taxes as well as tariffs, but had to pay most of the money made or found in the colony to the emperor. Lastly, they were obliged to establish settlements and forts in the province. In the same year, a fleet was assembled to sail to the colony. Almost 300 settlers, the deputy Nicolas Federmann, as well as the governor Ambrosius Ehinger, made their way to the capital Coro. Upon arriving in the New World, the name of the capital was changed to Neu-Augsburg, meaning New Augsburg. Furthermore, the Welser gave the colony the name Klein Venedig, meaning Little Venice. The name comes from the Italian explorer Amerigo Vespucci, who during a voyage around South America saw houses of indigenous people built over the water and supported on wooden stilts. It is said that these houses reminded him of the city of Venice, and thus the land was given the name Venezuela, or translated Little Venice. Ehinger took control of Little Venice, and not long after, he began exploring the new territory in search of a myth, a city made of gold, El Dorado. Since the Spanish had discovered the land just a few years before, the indigenous people showed fierce resistance against this invader. Following a string of bloody battles, he reached his destination, where he established the settlement Neu-Nuremberg, which translates to New Nuremberg. During this time, Ehinger fell victim to the tropical disease malaria and decided to recover from it in a safe place outside the colony. He handed authority to the deputy Federmann until he came back to start his second expedition. With new soldiers and horses, the governor continued his search for the Golden City. Once again, the indigenous people were hostile and lengthened the undertaking. The harsh climate, a lack of nourishment, as well as infections killed many soldiers. Later they even ran out of food, which forced them to eat their horses and dogs. Ultimately, the search was a failure. On the way back to Neu-Augsburg, they were again attacked by the native population. Ehinger, weakened by the long journey, tried to flee, but one poisoned arrow hit him in the neck. While he survived the encounter, and despite all medical attention, the poison slowly put an end to his life. 4 days later, Ehinger died and was buried under a tree. The men who survived returned to the capital. In the intervening time, life in the colony of the new settlers was difficult. They were unaccustomed to the climate and also not to tropical diseases. The reason why they came to this place was that everyone was given farmland. At the same time, the Welser cared little about the population and were focused on making as much money as possible. Different goods, such as gold, salt, as well as exotic woods, were sold, but only the sale of slaves was really profitable. As a reaction, the slave trade became increasingly important, which led to the brutal enslavement of more and more Indians. The situation even became so terrible that the Spanish missionary Las Casas described them as white lions and devils, only caring about profit and nothing else.